Good evening. Welcome to the special Ogden City Council meeting for January 8th, 2013. Let the roll call reflect that all council members are present, and we will now have Vice Chair Blair lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And at this time, we will now have a moment of silence. Thank you. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes. First is the minutes of the work session of May 8th, 2012. Councilmember Heyer.
Mr. Turner, I have reviewed those minutes, found them to be accurate.
And the minutes of the work session of May 24th, 2012. Councilmember Stevens.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I found them correct also.
And the minutes of the study session of June 19th, 2012, the work session of June 19th, 2012, and the joint study session of July 31st, 2012. Councilmember Van Hooser.
These minutes are correct, and I move that we approve all the minutes listed above.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Van Hooser and a second from Councilmember Heyer to approve these minutes. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. These minutes are approved. Next is reports from administration, and we'll turn the time over to Mayor Caldwell or Jay Louder.
Laura Lewis will be presenting this next item.
Ms. Lewis will come up at this time.
Good evening. It's good to be here again in your great city. I was very sad because it's sort of been a family tradition of ours to come up and see your little village. And we came up for an event and it was too cold for my kids to stomach more than 2 houses. It's like, okay, but next year we'll be back. So anyway, I'm here to educate you on the adoption, to educate you on the facts behind the resolution that you'll be asked to consider for adoption that will authorize a state loan to further the pipeline project coming down the canyon. The actual state loan amount is anticipated to be $5 million. However, the state requires that you fund a debt service reserve fund, which is standard for most bonds. In most publicly offered bond issues, that will be funded up front. The state has a standard provision that you fund that over time, but that's kind of in conflict with your other publicly offered bond documents. And so we have asked the state, and they have indicated that they are willing to allow an increase in your loan amount to provide for that funding. So the sheet that my staff my understanding is that this has been distributed to you. I have copies if you didn't get it. Details the cost of issuance and then has a brief summary of how this transaction would compare with a public market offering. Interest rates hit their historic lows about early to mid-November. And so we did contemplate and did discuss with your staff the possibility of issuing these bonds on a public basis instead of on a private basis with the state. There are some benefits to going with the state. The interest rates are about equal. So the benefits of going with the state versus a public offering is that there is no call date. So if interest rates were to drop lower, or if you had additional funds and you wanted to pay debt off, it's harder to do that with a public bond. It's very easy to do that with a state loan. There's reduced market risk, and one of the most compelling things we talked about, well, we might get a little bit lower interest rate if we did a public offering, but we don't know until we're actually in the market. The state loan, it's like the rate is the rate, and that's now fixed, and it doesn't matter what happens in the market. It's usually generally a quicker process to close, and so it is with that I will take questions. These bonds are on parity with the other state loan and on parity with the other publicly offered bonds, and it's pretty simple and straightforward, I think.
What's the rate that we're looking at?
Hold on. 2.29.
29?
Yes, 2.39.
3.
Thank you. I even have my reading glasses on, but obviously I need new ones. Any other questions? This loan was contemplated when we did your rate study. It was built in. We knew the project was coming and anticipated this funding. So
just to clarify, in the agenda, or on the agenda, it says for the sale of no more than $6 million of sewer and water revenue bonds, but we're only issuing $5 million.
It'll be $5 million plus the funding up of the debt service reserve. That's why we put that cushion in there. I don't expect it will be the full $6 million, but we haven't negotiated that reserve size with the state.
And we do have a little bit of substitute language that's just on the indentures.
Yes.
Could you just touch on that briefly?
Quite candidly, I saw this when I walked in and I hadn't realized it had there was a need for a change. I missed a phone call today from your legal counsel, so let me quicken look at this. 3360. You know, that is technical in nature enough to the point where, to me, it's 6 of one and half dozen the other. Mike, have you had any discussion with this with Blake?
Language changes are all technical.
Mike, you need you on the microphone, please. Sorry.
So it's standard in a publicly offered bond to calculate interest on what's called, you can calculate on an actual basis or a 3360-day basis. And as I'm reading this, it's a year of 3360 days consisting of 12 months of 30 days each. To me, it's a clarifying of what 3360 means, but.
Yeah, the language change doesn't have any change in the parameters of the bonds themselves, the rate parameter, the principal on the bonds, the term all stay the same. It's mainly a clarification of legal terms of whether the bond's interest is figured on a 360 or a 365 basis, and so we just had to make a couple of quick changes there to make sure we're within legal definitions.
Okay, thank you.
But my apologies for not being up to speed on that.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Lewis? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from council members or further discussion? Okay. Can we entertain a motion?
If there's no further discussion, I will make a motion that we adopt proposed resolution 2013-1.
I second it.
Oh, with the amended language.
With the amended language.
And also to set the public hearing.
Oh, sorry.
So will you restate that?
I will. I will make a motion that we adopt proposed resolution 2013-1 with the amended language and to set the public hearing for February 5th, 2013.
And I second that.
We have a motion from Vice Chair Blair and a second from Councilmember Stevens to adopt this resolution with the substitute language and set the public hearing for February 5th, 2013. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Gochner?
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember Van Hoosier?
Aye.
Councilmember Wicks?
Aye.
Vice Chair Blair?
Aye.
Chair Gardner?
Aye. This passes, and the public hearing will be set for February 5th. Thank you. Next on the agenda is new business. This is the election of the council chair and the vice chair. And this is to ratify the straw poll voting for council chair and vice chair.
Mr. Chair, I can provide some background on that.
Thank you.
Excuse me. In a study session just prior to this meeting, a straw poll was taken. I apologize for my rough not my rough language, my rough voice. The council did a straw poll for the election of chair and vice chair. It is proposed that Barb Blair be the chair and Neil Garner be the vice chair.
And
so this is to ratify or not ratify
Chair Garner,
results.
I would move that we ratify the aforementioned election, or the aforementioned straw poll.
I'll second it.
we have a motion from Councilmember Heyer to ratify the straw poll voting and a second from Councilmember Van Hoosier. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Heyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember Van Hoosier?
Aye.
Councilmember Wicks?
Aye.
Councilmember Gochner?
Aye.
Vice Chair Blair?
Aye.
Chair Gardner?
Aye. Thank you. And next is the swearing in of the chair and the vice chair.
Our city recorder will do that, Mr. Chair.
Tracy, thank you.
Good evening. Councilmember Blair and Garner, if you'll stand, raise your right hand and repeat after me, please. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
I will support, defend, obey and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge the duties
that I will discharge the duties
of my office with fidelity.
of my office with fidelity.
I just have some signatures to get from you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, and thank you for your support. Next on the agenda is public comments. This is an opportunity to address the council regarding your concerns or ideas. Please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. In this form of government, all city personnel and administrative policy are the responsibility of the administration, not of the council. Please discuss any concerns you may have regarding staff with the mayor, chief administrative officer, or department directors. And also, I would like to briefly read just a civility statement. The council appreciates the public comments and participation. We request that an atmosphere of mutual respect and civility be maintained during our proceedings tonight. The council's policy is elected officials, city staff, presenters, and citizens shall be dignified, respectful, and courteous during council meetings. The city council values all opinions and points of view as long as they are presented in a civil manner. The council will not tolerate personal attacks, rudeness, disrespectful comments, insults, name-calling, or belittling comments. We desire to maintain an environment where everyone feels safe in expressing their opinions. Clapping, shouting, or booing during the meeting is not permitted. Public comments may be addressed during the public comment portion of this meeting, and all comments are important. However, if the idea you want to bring up has already been expressed, please refrain from commenting on that point. Thank you, and now we will turn the time over to you for public comments.
Mayor, council, I am truly grateful to be here to be able to talk to you tonight. I come here with a heavy heart. I'm a citizen of Ogden. My name is Kevin Irons. I own a home and I own a business. And I had a problem with the police department over the summer, and I made a complaint to the police department. And you're gonna have to bear with me because I'm very nervous and this is really hard to do. The complaint information states that if you have a complaint, that you bring it to the police department. And when I went there, I was confronted with no help. Nobody wanted to help me, so it took a few days and a few times to go down there to get any action done. So I did finally get a complaint put in on the police officer that I had a complaint against. I was told that that my complaint wasn't valid and that I didn't have any place to be there, and I was told by the chief of police that that he wouldn't be able to do anything because he's going to stand for his police officer, which is fine. I accept that. But when I went to ask, for an answer on the complaint, the chief referred me to a lieutenant, and the lieutenant talked to me, and we discussed the situation, and he said that the situation was both of our faults. And I said, okay, that's fine. Give me an answer in writing. I didn't get an answer. He said he would have the answer for me on Monday. Monday came, and no answer. Tuesday came, no answer. So Thursday, I called down there, and the lieutenant wasn't there. So I went to the police department, and on Thursday, I went to the police department and asked for the lieutenant. The lieutenant wasn't there, so then I asked for the chief.
That is time.
May I have more time? This is...
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Irons, we're sorry, but we do allow 3 minutes for each individual. And...
Well, this is a complaint that, I'm a little nervous here. Can you give me a little more time? I'll finish up in 3 minutes.
I'm sorry.
Our time, and we express it.
1 minute. Okay, I was arrested at the courthouse after the chief of police told me that I couldn't go to the city building. That I was told that I couldn't go to the 6th, 7th, and 9th floor of the Mississippi building.
Mr. Chair.
So, Mr. Irons, we do respect your time, but we've asked you, prior to...
So you're not going to let me speak?
Well, I did let you speak, and I set the time. I told you prior.
I was arrested at the courthouse for trespassing after the chief of police told me I couldn't, and then I was...
We've
Thank you,
provided
sir.
the 3-minute public comment time, and that will...
Well, I need more time.
I'm sorry.
More time. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
Give me more time?
Cannot give you more time.
You don't want to hear my situation?
Well...
You don't want to hear 3 minutes?
We cannot hear it right now.
3 minutes is not enough time.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, council members, mayor, I'm here to ask you for some assistance.
Can you state your name and address for the record, sir?
My name is Alonso Garcia, and I live homeless. There's a stretch of road between 25th and 29th on Wall. It's a drag strip. It's a kill zone. And I'll give you an example. My friend died Christmas Eve, and we come in contact with these cars every day. There's got to be something done to help us. At night at the rescue mission, there's 60 to 80 men who sleep on the chapel floor. They leave 6 o'clock in the morning. That's dark in the winter hours. And for lunch, there's 75 to 150 people serve lunch at St. Anne's. And the same people go to dinner at the mission. Well, I'm going to invite you, come on a Saturday about 4, when organizations come and give us chili dogs and coffee and cocoa, and see that these are good people. Yeah, we have issues, we have problems. but they're really good people. And to risk our lives crossing that street is not right. It's a drag strip. I'm not kidding. Come, see. You'll see them. You'll see them muscle cars. You'll see those trucks. You'll see those bullet bikes. They don't care. There's been lots of times I've tried to cross that street and come close to getting hit, and I'm to a point where I just don't care no more. If it takes another one to draw attention to the problem that exists there, please do something. My friends get tickets for jaywalking. I mean, come on, Benford and West Benford do not line up, and that's where my friend was killed. Why should we get tickets when you'd make more money pulling people over for speeding than you would off the homeless for jaywalking? You hear what I'm saying? Please, do something. Help my people.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and council members, for your kind attention. I am Sonia Stewart, 1607 Lake Street, an Ogden City resident since 1969. I would like to apologize to my fellow citizens for neglecting my civic duty for the greater portion of those years. I did not take the time to notice how disrespectful our police department has become until last year. It is not okay to bang on someone's door in the dark of night. It is not okay to bash someone's door down. It is not okay to do sloppy investigations against such devastating policies. And go to wrong addresses. Sorry, I am nervous. I will continue to encourage the movement against such devastating policies. When government pushes too hard, the people push back. Respectfully, I believe that it is up to you members how hard that push will be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Stewart.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. My name is Patrick Powers. I'm hoping that'll still work. My voice is pretty loud. My name is Patrick Powers. I am actually a Salt Lake City resident, but I am also the founder and president of a nonprofit organization here in Utah called the Utah Liberty Institute. I can understand why anybody would be nervous standing up here in front of all of you. It's quite intimidating to be the only one in this little half circle. But I will be brief, as it appears that you are very strict on the 3-minute guideline. My first suggestion is actually probably to go ahead and fix that so the public doesn't feel so shafted when they come up here a little nervous and get cut off maybe a fifth of the way through their comments. And now I've eaten up about a minute of my time. It was interesting to be in here for the swearing-in ceremony. I would like to talk a little bit about that. The Constitution has a nifty group of about 10 amendments, the original 10, called the Bill of Rights, and I'd like to briefly talk about the fourth one. There's some tricky language in there about unreasonable searches and seizures. Ms. Stewart has already been up here to discuss that briefly with you. Let's talk really quickly about what is reasonable. If someone comes to an individual's home at 2:30 a.m. in the morning, the reasonable thing to do at that time for a homeowner, family man, or even just individual concerned for their own safety and well-being is to grab the nearest object, preferably a loaded gun, to answer that door. Because 2:30 in the morning is not the time that gentlemen come to knock. Generally speaking, it is the criminal class that comes knocking at 2:30 in the morning. Now, the problem that we have with searches and the serving of warrants and things like that in any police department, in any place in this whole country, is that it is unreasonable for the very fact that a reasonable person will answer the door prepared to do battle. And so it unnecessarily puts the police that are serving said warrant at risk, an unnecessary risk, and it also puts the people, the person who is the object of that warrant, or in the cases we've seen this last weekend, an innocent homeowner who has absolutely no idea what is going on, has not been guilty of any crime, and has no reason to believe that the people at the door at 2:30 in the morning would be police officers enforcing a just law. And so I would love to actually speak with you after the meeting, because I know that that beeper is about to go off on me. But I would love to meet with you further and discuss some of the very common sense, very practical reforms that we have taken the time to figure out for you. And so myself and my colleagues would love to give you guys some help as far as
Thank you.
Figuring those things out and then implementing them.
Thank you.
Thanks.
May I have 3 minutes on a separate issue?
Yeah, Ms. 30 minutes.
We'll see if there, Mr. Irons, let's see if there's other comments, and then, okay, on this issue.
Hello, I'm Nathan Goodman. Like Mr. Powers, I am from Salt Lake City, so I'll try not to take up too much of your time. But I've been deeply concerned by the various news stories I've read over the past few years regarding the militarization of your police department and the violent home invasion raids that have occurred. In the most publicized of these cases, both the Eric Hill case, the Matthew Stewart case, and the case involving many of the same officers involved in the Stewart case and the same strike force, the Todd Blair case. In all of these cases, the warrants could have been served in a reasonable way. They were not. The warrants could have been served in a way that did not involve militarized, heavily armed home invasions. If you want to talk about a gun violence problem, let's talk about this gun violence problem. And they indeed were directed at non-violent offenses. Apparently, the current policing strategy is to have heavily militarized groups, large, heavily militarized groups armed with assault weapons, barge into homes late at night, potentially traumatizing families, and in the case of Todd Blair, killing people. And in the case of the Stewart case, creating clearly unnecessary risk to the officers' lives and leading to a homeowner who who the warrant was being served on him was for a nonviolent offense, leading to him being placed on death row for doing what I think the average Utah resident would have done. When your home is invaded in the middle of the night, if you have a weapon, you use it. Now, this is needlessly dangerous and needless, senseless violence. And furthermore, simply restricting it to violent offenders will not fix the problem. In Chicago, when a warrant was being served on a murder suspect in 2010, an 8-year-old girl was killed because police barged into a home in the middle of the night, threw a flash grenade, burning that girl, and shot her. This is simply unnecessary, simply unjust, and it must stop. And I would urge you to take a look at any proposals given to stop it, including, and not limited to, withdrawing your city from the Weber Morgan Narcotics Strike Force. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Dan Duell, and I reside at 788 Cimarron Drive here in Ogden. I'm no stranger to the council. Thank you very much for hearing me tonight. I, too, have some deep concerns about the tactics used by our police force in this city and frankly, around the state and around the country. Bear with me. Some of my comments have already been said, but I want to start out with making sure that it's known that this is neither an anti-police nor an anti-establishment statement that I make to you tonight. I have many friends who are in the police, who serve in the police, in the Ogden Police Force. I have family who've served in the police. But I have to talk about a little bit about some of the tactics that we use, and the previous speaker mentioned how now that we have police showing up at 2:30 in the morning for a nonviolent offense, anybody can bang on a door at 2:30 in the morning and claim they're the police. Anybody can do that, and the homeowner doesn't necessarily know who's really on the other side of the door. Especially a homeowner who, when a mistake has been made and you have an innocent homeowner who is answering that door or responding to that knock, doesn't know who really is on the other side of the door. Any criminal can claim to be the police. In addition to that, the new paint on the police cars appear, at least by my eye, to have been painted so that the police markings on the cars don't show up at night. So I can imagine someone peeking out their window at night and still not being able to identify whether it's really the police knocking on their door or not. Mistakes like this, mistakes that have the possibility of costing lives, whether we're talking the lives of the police or the lives of an innocent person on the inside of that home, are totally unacceptable. They're completely unacceptable. And I have a hard time, I struggle to wonder just how a mistake like that can be made. Did somebody not dot an I or cross a T on something so basic as finding out whether the person they're looking for actually lives in the home that they're going to visit? This is really difficult for me, and this is not the first time in Ogden City where this has happened. The other thing that I have a problem with is that I read in the newspaper, and I know we need to divide by the media, sorry. We have to divide by the media and wonder how much of it is being reported accurately, but as I see that the police are investigating this internally, well, who's going to police the police if they're investigating their own mistakes internally? I feel that procedural improvements can be made to minimize the risk to the officer and the risk to the general public. There's a difficult thing that I see, assuming that the media is reporting it properly, is that there seems to be a sort of a cavalier attitude that, well, you know, mistakes are bound to happen. We just want to get our man, and wow, gosh, I'm really sorry if I shot an innocent homeowner in the middle of the night. You know, it's not just the homeowner that is being harmed in these cases. It is the general public. And with that, I thank you very much and ask that we can find some kind of a resolution.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for your time. I am Sarah Hone. I am a born and raised citizen of Ogden, and I teach elementary school. I ask that you please rethink and help us with the violent police tactics. I have a student that wants to be a police officer because he wants to be able to carry and use a gun without getting in trouble. So I ask for your help with this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, I think you're probably really good people, so that's why I'm talking to you. I don't live in Ogden, I live in Salt Lake City, but I've come to love a number of people in Ogden, some of the people who've been victimized by your police force. And I think Sarah just hit it right on the head, is that people haven't just gotten the impression, police officers haven't just gotten the impression that they can do whatever they need to do, violent or otherwise, whatever they want to do, violent or otherwise, and not face any penalties for it. And I think that's really the crux of the issue. Whether we're talking Ogden, Utah, Chicago, Illinois, or Salt Lake, or wherever, even if you terrorize a family by going to the wrong door, you're not going to face any punishment. You might get chewed out, but probably not even that. And on top of that, that's when mistakes are acknowledged to have been made, where they've gone to the wrong house or whatever. But in the case of Matthew David Stewart, they went to the right house because they suspected that Matthew had cannabis, right? Big deal, okay? For them to walk into a peaceful, nonviolent situation and create terror and panic, and then blame the person who responded to shocking terror and panic that came out of nowhere and blame him for how that came about, this is ridiculous. So I have two recommendations for you, because there's a huge question as to what we as a society should do about the growing threat of police violence. It's getting worse. In the late 70s, there were fewer than 500 home invasion style raids across the entire country. We're now up to over 70,000 every year, and almost all of them against these low-level drug offenders, okay? This isn't kingpins. You might get a kingpin every few years, and you get tens of thousands thousands of, small people in the meantime. So lots of questions about what we as a society should do, but what should Ogden City Council do? What's within your power? Well, one, I would recommend that you definitely withdraw your police force from the Weber Morgan Narcotics Strike Force. This is a manifestation of a completely corrupt justice system. In the early 80s, police officers who were around then might be able to tell you firsthand that they remembered that there was a lot of skepticism from local law enforcement across the entire country that they should be doing these things. And what brought them into it? Money. Federal matching dollars. This is largely why local communities get into these strike forces, is because you get matching dollars for them. But guess what? The only thing you can use them for are these home invasion style raids against low-level pot growers or whatever. So one, look into the history of strike forces, which is the exact opposite of a peace officer. They are strike enforcers. That doesn't sound the same at all, does it? So research that and then consider withdrawing from the strike force. And two, I would recommend that you set up a robustly independent and funded police civilian review board so that average citizens who are actually the victims of these crimes have some official mechanism of having them investigated and some restitution brought. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm extremely nervous. My name is Melanie Hill. I fell victim of the wrong house raid that took place last week in Ogden City. I just want to thank all the commenters and all the support that we have had. I know mistakes happen and whatever, but I have a 4-year-old and a 10-year-old daughter. They're traumatized. And what if they mistakenly shot and killed one of my kids? Or my husband that was innocent in our home? We recently moved to Ogden 6 months ago, and what drew us towards that was the beautiful views and the schooling. And my main concern was finding a safe neighborhood, because there is a part of Ogden that's notorious for crime and drug abuse, and I wanted to raise my kids in a safe environment. And to be victimized by the people you feel that should have your safety and your back come into your house and be treated the way we did is horrific. I can't even put into words. And so I also stress the lack of information that was used. The arrest warrant was served an hour prior to coming to my house, and the person they were looking for, his mom commented in a later news article that he's never even used our address as living there. And so I'm just still confused of the information that was given to the police officers. It's just very scary, and I feel very lucky to be standing here today. I feel lucky to be hugging my kids in the morning, to have my husband, because it could have turned way worse than it should, or what it could have, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And so I just want to stress again that, more information needs to be given or researched before they do these types of things. And again, coming in at 2:30 in the morning, like other commenters had said, open the door, you're going to try to defend your family. And that's exactly what my husband was doing. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie.
How you doing? My name's Eric Hill. I live at 1033 Harrop. My house was the house that was ascended on by police on December 20th. And I also just want to stress the fact that, more information, more intel is definitely needed in the way you guys handle business. I appreciate your apologies through, newspaper but it's a bit too late. You know, the damage is done, and what's happened to my kids is just horrible. You know, and for you guys to be able to come to my house, serve that kind, you know, of warrant is, I don't even know what to say exactly. It's I think about it every day. It's just a recurring nightmare. I'm never going to get over it. The damage is done. The long-term effect on my children, who knows what it's going to be. You know, I just wish that you guys could enforce a little more intel in your police department. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
Hi, I'm Jared Hone. I've lived in Roy and Ogden my whole life. Thank you for your time. It seems to be that your police force is running rogue. I was actually skeptical coming to the meeting and addressing concerns because I don't believe you have the power to change anything. I believe your police force is going to keep acting like a bunch of criminals. Being a new father and having a daughter at my house, if somebody were to come in my house at 2 a.m., I'd be worried about defending them now because it could be your renegade cops. Could be your unintelligent police officers knocking down doors. As a father, I am scared to defend my home now because if the cops see me with anything in my hands, I'm going to get shot. And it could be the wrong person they're looking for. It's disgusting. And I hope you have power to do something. But to be honest, I don't think any of you do. I think it's going to continue, and that's what's sick. You have people up here expressing concern, and I'm pretty sure ditch police officers are going to keep acting like thugs and not get punished. So if you are city council, let's see something happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Irons, we'll give you 3 minutes.
Okay, my son was also traumatized when I was arrested for domestic violence in May. And then when I went to after I was arrested, I don't know, for some reason, I immediately went to the BCI, Bureau of Criminal Investigation, and I got my information, okay, from the Criminal Bureau of Information. Okay? This is before I went to court. Before I went to court, Mike Junk and Mr. Burdett put on my BCI. They had the information of the arrest. A couple of weeks after the arrest was on my BCI, and at the very top page it says convicted of domestic abuse. This was before I went to court. This is before I went to court. When I went to court, they dropped the charges because they had no witness, they had no evidence, and they had no victim. So, and then I tell the city attorney and I tell the mayor that this is going on. And then they give me this letter in a meeting that I have. I called for a meeting with the mayor, and I had to go to the police department to meet with the mayor, and I was subject to search. They gave me this letter stating that Mr. Junk sent a letter to the BCI stating that all the information that was on there shouldn't have been on there. So they tried to cover it up. What say you, Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Irons. We appreciate your comments.
A comment from the mayor on this matter?
Thank you, Mr. Irons. Any further public comment?
My name is Darcy Van Orden, and I'm with the Utah Liberty Institute. I first want to address the Todd Blair case, because in my mind, that was murder. When you had a first police officer stepping through the door, shoots a man who's over 10 feet ahead of him, holding a golf club to protect himself like anybody else would with a no-knock warrant. We need to first address this issue. If you can do anything about it, we should cease and desist with no-knock warrants. They make no sense, and you're endangering people's lives. People have not committed any violent offense. Over drugs, we're going to be off sending in SWAT teams with no-knock. If it was you in your home in the middle of the night, and you have no idea who's coming through your door, of course, you're going to grab whatever you can find to protect yourself, protect your family. And that was absurd, and that was murder. And yet, nothing came of that case, which is totally absurd. Your police officers have also been found guilty of shooting dogs. Now, we have a situation here where you guys can choose to do something about this. I think we need to first and foremost demand that the police chief resigns from his position because he is not doing his job. He is not protecting the citizens of Ogden. But of course, we need to remove from the strike force as well, but also look into enabling these officers from these no-knock warrants is got to be the soundest policy we can do moving forward to protect the citizens of this area. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Nicole. I am from Bluffdale. I just believe strongly that the punishment should fit the crime. And a lot of the stories that I've read, a lot of the responses I've seen from the city, it just does not seem that the way that these people have been handled really fits the crimes that they've been accused of, regardless of whether they're innocent or not. Shooting at people, storming their homes for owning a plant, for even going AWOL from the military doesn't justify putting them and their families in danger and innocent bystanders or whatever else. We need to have a saner approach to getting, I guess, the bad guys if you want, but at the same time, it needs to fit the crime. And right now, shooting people just seems to be overkill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Caldwell, City Council members, my name is Michael Stewart. I'd just like everybody to know that my family has been decimated and discouraged, hurt. We're still going through a lot of pain because of what happened to our son. My wife and I went to Salt Lake today, and we went to watch a movie that's playing down in Salt Lake. And it's called The House I Live In. I would compel each and every one of you to watch that movie. It's a 90-minute movie, but it will educate you on what is happening in this country. We would like to see some changes. We don't want to see anybody else get hurt. We don't want to see anybody else in our community to be terrorized by the police department. We need the police, but we need police that are not so quick to use their weapons. And I, for one, I don't understand why our local police need automatic rifles. You know, please look at this and do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Again, and as people are coming up, just a reminder, if it's the same information, please keep your comments short. Thank you.
Loretta Burns, and I actually had to move my family from Ogden. I was a neighbor down the road from their son in the shooting. A few weeks later, the cops shot my neighbor's dog. A few weeks after that, U.S. Marshals stormed my neighbor's house across the street from us because a kid had run from the halfway house. For fear of my abusive ex coming back to my home for failure from your guys' staff to inform me that he was let out, I had to move my family so that I wasn't living in fear anymore. Sorry, it touches way too close to home. All these things happen within my neighborhood, and there's nothing I can do. You know, the only thing I could do is pick up my home and move everybody I had to move from everybody I knew. And it's heartbreaking to see a vet get shot up and accused of killing other cops when there was a big, huge miscommunication between whoever it was that was putting that. I can't wrap my mind around the fact that the cops break into a vet's home, somebody that was trained by our U.S. military to protect. What were they expecting? I mean, seriously, what were they expecting as a result of breaking into a house of a vet? I just don't understand the whole. I don't see how dysfunctional Ogden has become. I've been here twice, and both times I'm glad I don't live here anymore. I hate saying that because there's a lot of great people here. And if we don't group together as a community, it's all going to fall apart right underneath you guys. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay.
Hello, Mayor, City Council. My name is Corey McAdams. I live at 316 30th Street, and I just urge you all to please get rid of the no-knock warrants. I own a home here, and if somebody was busting down my door, I would try to protect it, and I would maybe end up dead, and it's like I've done nothing wrong, and these people back here that have done nothing wrong and had their house searched, like, and then the Blair case, like, where it's just what if that gentleman over there with his baseball bat coming to the door, what if he would have been killed and not here tonight? This would be totally different. We need to do something. Please, I urge you guys and everything. I'm new to Ogden, and I want to stay here. I want to feel safe. I don't want to feel anxiety whenever I see a cop and I've done nothing wrong. I don't want to be terrorized, basically what everybody else has said. They don't want to be terrorized, and they don't want to see their community terrorized anymore. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Corey.
Hello, Council, Mayor. My name is Stacy Jones. I've lived in Ogden all my life, and I've noticed that this town has been on CNN and all the national news channels more and more for these kind of violent raids. It's given the town of Ogden kind of a bad reputation all across the country. And I don't know if any of you have watched the YouTube video of that Todd Blair. You should. It's cold-blooded murder. And with the Matthew Stewart thing, 7 people got shot, 1 man lost his life. I don't know how much the city and the county has had to pay for all those medical bills, and 7 families torn apart. These violent raids have got to stop. The police could have went to his work, to Matt's work, and got him. And, you know, it was a non-violent crime. He was growing a pot plant in his basement. They don't need to go in and start shooting, dressed as thugs. Why don't they tase people anymore? I know we've got tasers. We bought tasers. Why don't they wear the cameras like they did in Todd Blair's case on these other issues, and these, like Matt's place? This stuff's got to stop. Our town's crumbling. Thank you.
Thank you, Stace.
Hello, my name is Desiree Robinson, and I also live at 316 30th Street. I lived in Ogden for about 3 years now. one of my first experiences with the Ogden City Police Force was when I was actually living at 123 30th Street, and there was a gang shooting in my backyard. I slept through the bullets, surprisingly, didn't hear anything. I woke up and went to go to work, and there were probably at least 40 officers in my backyard, not just the Ogden Police, but also, like CSI and gang enforcement as well. We drove through the investigation, the crime scene in my backyard, blood and all, without a single police officer asking a single question. They never once knocked on our door. They never once told us anything that had happened. I had to find out from the news what had happened in my own backyard, even though I came out of my house while there was multiple police there. They also left all of their trash and all of the blood in the backyard, and it was there for weeks. I also had a friend who, she was home alone by herself, and there were two men knocking on her door. She said they kind of looked like police, but they were hiding their face. She wasn't sure whether it was the police or not. They knocked multiple times, never announced themselves. She never opened the door. She called the police the next day to find out whether it had been the police and apologized for not opening the door, and they told her that it hadn't been the police and they didn't know who it was. At this point, with everything that's been going on, everything I've been hearing about with all of the no-knock raids and people coming in, I don't feel like I have the right to protect myself. And if my friend had opened the door and protected herself at this point, whether it had been the police or not, I don't see much of a difference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Donna Sombrola. I live in Roy. The house that Ogden City raided was my daughter and my grandkids' house. My grandkids are terrified. The 10-year-old, I can't even leave in the car in my driveway to run in the house to get something without her coming with me. I would just like to let you guys reinvestigate how the cops do the raid. We don't want nobody fired, just retrain them on how they serve the warrants. With the guns pointed at my grandkids, never once did the cops tell my daughter to take the kids into the other room. They just left them in there to see it all go down. The cushions on the couch were tore up. They were terrified. They didn't know what to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, and we appreciate your comments tonight. And now we will have comments from administration.
I'll quickly reiterate that I appreciate everyone's comments. I too am the father of young daughters, and we take this very seriously, and we're looking at how this works and what we can do to make improvements. Nobody wants to see these things happen, and we're doing everything we can to understand exactly what the facts and details were, and we appreciate you guys participating in the process tonight and bringing your thoughts and concerns for consideration for all of us. So thank you for being a part in what's happening.
Thank you. And council staff?
Nothing further, thank you.
Council members? Okay, thank you. Next is on the agenda is consideration of adjourning into a closed executive session pursuant to the provisions of Section 52-4 of the Open and Public Meeting Law for the purpose of discussing these items. Mr. Williams.
Mr. Chair, a closed executive session is permissible for the purposes set forth on the agenda.
Okay, and a motion?
With that, Chair Garner, I would make a motion that we adjourn into a closed executive session for the reasons outlined in the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Wicks and a second from Councilmember Heyer to adjourn into a closed executive session. This is a roll call vote.
Member Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember Van Hoosier? Aye. Councilmember Wicks?
Aye.
Councilmember Gochner?
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer?
Aye.
Vice Chair Blair?
Aye.
Chair Garner?
Aye. And as a reminder, an RDA work session will be held immediately following the City Council meeting and work session, and the purpose of the work session is to discuss a proposed joint resolution. and a City Council work session will be held immediately following the RDA meeting. Thank you.